fully in control. All right. Here we go. So we're just having off-air conversation here with my guest, and in studio I have got Wakili Ken Amondi, who is joining me in studio, and of course Dr. Rotich, who is also joining me in studio. Today I want to talk about matters politics and how it's been there. It's captured on the front page of the Daily Nation and even some of the papers here, where the president has completely refused, so to speak, to be a lame duck president. How is it going to be that to this end, with only 8 months to go, he's still in full control of the government, and how he's handling the running and the affairs of the government? Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. Okay, Dr. Ri, before we went on air, you're talking about the issue of Kitui. It's really making you quite...
I think, Oloo, Kitui past tragedy is a tragedy that would have been avoided had it not been for some negligence. Because there were all indications that the weather was bad, there was a flood in the place, and having the driver driving the bus across a very dangerous part actually has caused this country an immense tragedy, which should have been avoided. And we are very sorry to what happened in Kitui, and we condole the families who are affected, and that drivers must be cautioned that they should not really risk the lives of the people, because whatever he did, he was seeing. These are the people who saw the death coming. It was the most painful death. Yeah. And what I can say, we do condole the families who are affected, and we say, may the grace of God actually be with them, so that they can withstand the kind of pain they will be undergoing now.
31 lives being lost in a matter of seconds is not something that can be wished away and say that, you know, it was unavoidable. But then the issue of that bridge, Wakili, it's been long coming. You know, Paul Maringa went there and you know, promised the area residents that the bridge was going to be constructed, and years down the line, it's still the way it was. Year in, year out, we usually see deaths being reported in that particular area. Are we just being complacent with the contractors? The government is not so keen. We see the double-decker, you know, highway taking shape within a very short period of time, and it's almost complete, 75% complete. That small stretch, years down the line, is still, you know, not yet done.
Yeah, I think it got much to do with our collective ethos as a nation, in terms of even our commitment in doing the work which we ought to do and how we ought to do it. You realize this is something that ought to have been done and completed in 2019. And I understand the contractor did some shoddy work, so that it's really unfortunate that lives had to be lost under such circumstances. Of course, also still under the same banner, there is the question of the passengers themselves coercing the driver, you know, to take that particular move because of impatience, which is also part and parcel of our culture as Kenyans, where you insist you want things to be done the way you want them to be, you know, so that it's really unfortunate, but it's also a point of reflection. Reflection in the sense that we really need to rethink in terms of our attitude as a nation, in terms of how we take our work, or the tasks that we've been, you know, that we've been, the responsibilities that have been bestowed upon us to execute. So that I think that's one of the major lessons that we really need to learn from this particular episode.
Absolutely, and we still condole with the families, and even the survivors are still telling the stories, and even what happened that particular day, and we hope that something will be done. All right, there is a story that we gave you earlier on, and I think it's also important to note that a police officer went berserk last night and shot 7 people dead at Kabete police station, around Kabete area, after shooting his wife dead. He went on a shooting spree, indiscriminately shooting 5 more people, including 2 border riders. He was armed with an AK-47 rifle. The case and the cause of the incident is still not yet known, and police are still going on with the investigation. This happened at J Heights flat at Kabete, and it happened at around 1 a.m. The reason why that happened is still being investigated. He is a police constable attached to Kabete police station. He shot his wife first, went ahead out there driving a Probox and shot indiscriminately 5 people, including 2 border riders, before turning the gun on himself. So our reporters are still on the ground, and we'll give you more details as and when we get this information. So gentlemen, on the front page of the Daily Nation here, the president has refused to be a lame duck president, and all the indicators, points at a strong man who is still hoping to have that firm grip on presidency until the last minute. Perhaps you can say that he's the president until the last minute. Can we put it that way, Dr.?
I think, Oloo, when we talk about the legacy of His Excellency the President, that one is already safeguarded. His Excellency, to me, is a big performer.
Yeah.
For the last 8 years since his rule, and now that is winding up,
yes,
in 8 or 9 months down the line, I think he has a legacy that Kenyans will remember as a great performer who transformed the economy to the level where we are. I mean, we cannot compare ourselves before 2013. To date, we are better off as far as the infrastructure is concerned.
Yeah.
His Excellency the President has performed excellent. There are, of course, other hiccups that we've been talking about the debts that the country is actually almost about 7 trillion, which, of course, the country must pay. But those things would not have been able to come if we were to achieve the kind of infrastructural development that we have witnessed in this country. We would not have achieved without that loan.
Yeah.
So it is like we still have our money. We are still seeing our money in the development that has been done. But as far as the legacy is concerned, he cannot enjoy a legacy after his term. The legacy is within the period of his term. The 10 years tenure of his presidency is the one that will be determined by Kenyans as a period that he has to coin up his legacy. So if there is still time to make his further legacy, it is now between now and the 2022. That means after the election, as we handovers. But talking about the leadership of this country after His Excellency the President, that one is a jurisdiction that Kenyans will have to determine through an election. Yeah. In this case, he is talking that he wants to follow the passage of the late President Moi. And the whole thing, Oloo, if you can remember, it was a total failure. In the sense that when His Excellency the President, the late Moi, stood up at Kasarani and said, this young man is going to be the president of this republic. And immediately after that, the election followed, where of course we all know that his appointee failed miserably, and he was names, projects and all this and that. So it is not a history that we have to remember that His Excellency President Moi actually did a good thing. So in this case, Kenyans will determine, as the way they determine to vote for Kibaki as the president, when he was not the favorite of His Excellency President Moi, showed that Kenyans had the otherwise of the directions.
But I think the level of democracy and in terms of intensity of politics back then was so high that perhaps people would have thought that President Kenyatta was still young to lead the nation. That's probably somebody who said that's why it failed to take off.
Let me tell you, Oloo, the reflection of Moi's regime, of which majority of Kenyans seems they were already tired of it, and they needed somebody different from his line. They needed somebody who could, they could feel their own choice, not the choice of the then president. So in this case, Kibaki was somebody who was least expected. And Kenyans really went for him because they needed an alternative. They wanted to go for a different person altogether, which they actually did. In this case, the outcome, if His Excellency will decide to go the direction that is going, Oloo, I want to tell you that it is a risky venture. A risky venture in the sense that if it happens that Kenyans will go for a different person, what will be his history afterwards? I don't know whether he will live like His Excellency the President Mwai Kibaki, because Mwai Kibaki never bothered so much about Moi, whose preference was His Excellency the President Uhuru Kenyatta. But we don't know after this one whether whoever will take, say, if it will be a different person from the one whom the president is actually backing, I don't know how you will see when he will be in power. So that remains to be seen. But in this case, it is a very dangerous undertaking. I think the best thing that this exile could have done is to remain neutral and let Kenyans choose their own person. Okay, I will come into that briefly, whether it's a dangerous venture. But then, Wakili, the president is still, in control. Yes, with 8 months to go.
Yeah, of course, the president is expected to be in control constitutionally up to the time when he will be handing over power to the next president. The notion of a lame duck president, as ordinarily crafted from within the American jurisdiction, is the fact that when your term is about to end, then ordinarily the levers of power tends to shift, in the sense that people start reflecting in terms of the future. Yes. However, in respect of President Uhuru Kenyatta, we have to bear in mind the fact that he has got quite some a number of projects which, as it were, he intimated and he feels he wants to form part and parcel of his legacy. Look, for example, at the expressway project. Yes. And we've just been talking of the questions, whatever happened in Kitui, for example, where you have a project in 2019, it's earmarked, should have been done, and then someone does something, very small, and then someone does something shoddy. So in that sort of a culture, I will not blame the president for feeling that, look, I have to be in full control to ensure that this thing works, if possible, by February next year, so that I leave a safe legacy, of a completed project. To that, I would give him a plus. Yes. Of course, there is the question of, is his legacy safeguarded? So far, I would say yes. Like Daktari has indicated, we have a raft of infrastructure projects. I mean, they are there for everyone to see. You cannot doubt that, of course, for the massive debts. Then there would be the question of the unity of the nation. I think to some extent also that would be firmly safeguarded. Of course, if we start from 2013, the Uhuru-Ruto, can I say Uhuru-Ruto union, Ruto, which was really unexpected from so many quarters, but somehow took traction. In fact, to the extent of not just forming the government, but even enabling the deputy president, as it were, to gain so much solid traction within the central province to an extent that it becomes very hard to root even now. And to whom do we owe that? I believe it is the president, so that, he somehow managed to kill that bad blood that existed between these two communities. I think that's one thing which we must never forget. If it was not for Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, William Ruto would not have managed to go deep in central province as he did now. Yes. And then, of course, again towards the end of his term, and I think let us not forget this, you see a president who has also decided just to reflect on something that touched on his father, the historical mistake, if I could call it, between him and Jaramogi, the Luo, Kikuyu, and he somehow tried to address this, of course, also within the wider context of the 2017 election. And he decided to take the gamble to be the person who will just bring this to, to settle this question that has always existed, such that it doesn't matter how the election result will turn out, whether Raila Odinga will succeed or not, but I think Uhuru Kenyatta will have done his part. So
does it mean that from what you're saying, the Azimio la Umoja is just a twisted version of what you're saying, the president's intention?
To me, it's so much because remember, Azimio la Umoja is basically something that, according to me, it's a further perpetuation of the handshake and the handshake ideals, which stemmed from national reconciliation, as it were, and which was, from a legal standpoint, was to come through the BBI initiative, which of course faced certain bottlenecks in court based on certain mistakes, according to me. For example, on the aspect of the judiciary ombudsman, but which was otherwise a very good document. So that then I believe that is what Azimio la Umoja is now meant to capture. It's basically the same ideals in terms of uniting the country, reconciling the communities, but at the same time the aspect of sustainable economic development, placing the country in a firm path in terms of economic development, not just for now, but even for the future.
Okay, Doctor, do you really think that if the president and his deputy were still together and intact, as they were in first term, would the president have completely held on to power, or do you think he would have taken a backseat and handed over some responsibilities to his boss? Because as we speak right now, perhaps somebody would argue that the president is in full control because they are not reading from the same script with his deputy.
You see, Oloo, what you need to know is that the constitution of this country is very clear. Once somebody has been elected the president of the Republic of Kenya, he holds powers purely as per the constitution. There is no way that he could relent some of the powers to his deputy. Deputy is just his assistant, and it is defined by the law. So in any case, he would not have retreated back. But if he had the interest of having the deputy take over or from him after the 10-year period, I think there were better ways that he could allow him, or rather giving him leeway, just the way my brother said, to do a lot of things that he could be doing as the president. And that in any case, of course, will make the deputy actually more popular. But after 2018, Oloo, you saw what happened after they came together through the handshake. And somehow there was some cheateries. We don't know whether there was a disagreement or there was no disagreement, but somehow, according to my own analysis, Oloo, this handshake came all along with the mind behind the scene to build Raila for the position that he's eyeing for now. Because when they failed to manage the PPI through, now they came up with this issue of Azimio ya Umoja. And when you talk about Azimio ya Umoja, Oloo, what Umoja amount, bringing on board Kenyans together is something that was occasioned by the very clashes that we witnessed after the last election. And then in any case, there were a lot of hostility, having Raila Odinga having almost half of the country aside, and then His Excellency the President having almost half the country aside. So there was a need to bring Kenyans together, which of course, according to me, Raila has done the best thing to think that we have to bring on board Kenyans as one.
Allow me, Dr. to cut you short. Back to our discussion there. We are talking about the president's intention, and Wakili, I ask a question. Are we seeing a situation where the president is still firmly grip on power because they are not in good books with the president? Perhaps he would have taken a backseat and said, you're my deputy, I would love to give you more of duties to do. Or how was it supposed to be?
I think in respect of this, the deputy president will have himself to blame. Victor, even if you look at the American jurisdiction from which we borrow heavily as a country, never has there existed a president who donated so much executive power to his deputy as was done to William Samoei Ruto by President Uhuru Kenyatta. In fact, even within the confines of our system, if you look at all the vice presidents we've ever had, up to the other one, Kalonzo Musyoka, under President Uhuru, President Mwai Kibaki, he did not have as much powers as the deputy president, in as much as we know what they had was they fell under the confines of the presidency. But this is a deputy president who had real power. And we are informed that immediately after the election 2017, they were summoned, the Jubilee Brigade were summoned to at the State House, and the president did tell her that, look, ladies and gentlemen, this is my final term. Let us work. Let's put politics aside, and thereafter we shall give all our support to my deputy. So that I don't know where this notion of the deputy president coming out all strongly to push up his agenda and his presidential bid came from, and we are waiting to see what the result would be. But from the history of our country, you remember, I think it was a KRA gentleman who spoke about it, about how Raila Odinga lost his opportunity to lead this country in 2007, in as much as he was the prime minister, by initiating some early campaign, because essentially the notion of early campaign by the deputy president or the vice president perpetuates, the idea that the sitting president now becomes a lame duck president, because in a sense it means now, it brings the picture that you are out.
But is it just but a notion?
Yes, it's more or less about a feeling, so that then now people start shifting loyalties. I mean, if your term is coming to an end, then people start projecting in terms of the future. What would be my stake in the next government? So that then, where you have a president who was still keen in safeguarding, who felt there are certain aspects of his, what he considers core to his legacy, which were not yet fully, in place. It was proper for the deputy president to really play it smart, in the sense that, so that then in the end of the day, it will now be left for the president not to deliver his side of the bargain. Then people will now say, look, you have betrayed this gentleman. But I think as it stands, where he went all out to, campaign for his presidential bid, then the president now was left with no otherwise than to take full control of the government, at least so as to safeguard his legacy. And then now, from a personal perspective, because you see now, when the president gives such express directions and as a deputy you go against, from a personal perspective, the president would even be motivated now to look for someone else to back, and for that matter, even come out strongly. That is something which would not have happened under Mwai Kibaki, because the vice president was, always someone who was under, and of course, for the prime minister, also, if you can reflect, in as much as they had that contentious election in 2007, I think there's a sense in which the prime minister then tried so much to, as it were, ensure the perpetuation of, the president's big ideal. Even then, the only issue was that of the two major contenders, there was a sense in which, in as much as they were forced to work with the prime minister, and I want to believe solidly so, there was that personal relationship with the president. I mean, Uhuru Kenyatta, given he was the godfather, and given the history, so that then President Mwai Kibaki had to recede. So that I think if the deputy president had taken a different path, probably by now President Uhuru Kenyatta would have just let him run the show approaching the election.
Doctor, do you believe in that last statement? Because now the deputy president has himself to blame.
Let me tell you, Oloo, to be very honest.
Yeah.
When you look at us from 2013, when they took over, when His Excellency the President took over power in this country, 2013,
yes,
to 2017, all these things, all these cheaters started after 2017 elections. Now you can also ask yourself, Oloo, what was so special that what really came after 2017, which was not there from 2013 to 2017?
We all know that the rain started beating us after the handshake.
And let me tell you, everything was well until 20. Not actually the intention of that is my analysis. When you look at the way the history has unfolded in our making to where we are today. When of course, during all that time, His Excellency the President actually had in his mind that we have not been in good terms with almost half of the country. I mean, who are actually under the control of the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. And then he thought it wise that why don't we bring this country together by, enticing Right Honorable Raila Odinga to join the big leadership of this country. And he did that one with very good intention, that we were to bring this country together, and then they came up with the PPI. PPI was now to solve the problem that we've been witnessing all along during our electioneering, which was never to be again. So in this case, Oloo, after His Excellency was assured of his presidency after 2017, of course, it's like he had now a free mind to say, now that I can now decide to do what I want to do. Now I can invite my brother Raila Odinga, so that we can create a peaceful environment to enable the president to execute his pledges that he made to this country. That in itself has worked perfectly. Now with the issue of leadership, which he has been actually emphasizing, that the bringing on board of his Right Honorable Raila Odinga was not in any way to prepare him to take leadership after 2022. And in this case, that one seems to have been the case. Because now, His Excellency coming up openly and say, I'm seeing this old man, he can be the best successor to him. Now, when you talk about Ruto, and some quarters would wish to bring some claims that he started campaign early. Which campaign has he done that is different, that of which was there from 2013 to 2017, which we are now witnessing? Number two, it was through His Excellency the President who said, Yago kumi, yangu kumi. In this case, what Ruto has been doing, he has been crossing the country to sell the policies of the government as the aide of the president. As an assistant of the president. He has never spoken anything different with what they once, the agenda that they had to this country. He has been talking about electrifying this country. He has been talking about putting up infrastructure that we are now witnessing. All these things he's talking about are the things that the government has actually put in place. And in this case, he is owning, as the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, what has he campaigned now? What is so different between 2013 and 2017 that Kenyans are now seeing?
Someone would argue that he's been campaigning on a smart move.
He is a very smart, yes. What I can say,
agenda.
He had an advantage of eyeing the 2022 position and also being the second in command of the country. Those were his advantages that we could not remove. The law allowed him to cross the country. And of course we were not he says, the Deputy President is not a reverend, he's not a pastor. Wherever he goes, he has to speak, he talks politics. So what he's talking is a politician, and he's talking politics, and not only politics of today, but even politics of the future. So politics about the management of the country.
Okay, Wakili, at this particular point, we see the president actually giving all, the Jubilee machinery, the government machinery, at the disposal of the ODM leader Raila Odinga, and trying to give him the support. And perhaps what we are likely to see on the 10th of this month is the culmination of President's hand on what he's up to. You said very well that Deputy President should now blame himself for all his misfortunes, so to speak. Right.
Victor, let me put it like this. There's no one And that is the sad truth.
Yes.
There is no one who would not want to be endorsed by a sitting president. Yeah. And in fact, that basically forms the, the jitters that now exist within the deputy president's camp. Because truth be told, if the deputy president had the president's ear and support, then things would be totally different. I mean, things would be so smooth. And I know no one knows that better, the essence of having the system, other than the deputy president himself. The deputy president was there in YK 92. It was part of the system. When they shifted the tide from Ford, which was definitely taking over from Moi, it was a system thing. It was dismantled, and and then they came up with the notion of the youth and whatever, and Moi took over. A deputy president was in Kanu in 97 when the silent Kibaki and with the suddenly united Gema and goodwill through the country somehow won the election, but we know what happened. Of course, in 2002, the deputy president was there also family. When Uhuru Kenyatta, and everyone knows that, were it not for the Kibaki Tosha clarion call by Raila Odinga that united the opposition, Uhuru Kenyatta would have been the president at 40 years old or something.
In 2002.
In 2002, so that I think it's, I mean, I would say that the state machinery that is now directed towards the, the path of Raila Odinga is one thing that would really send the deputy president's camp worrying, especially bearing in mind that you are dealing with someone who, he's himself an institution in terms of having a solid rock support across the country, even without that particular, system support. But now it's there. So I think that
let me ask you, the so-called government project. Why are people so much worried about government project? If you're a government project, has it ever worked? Because some would say that...
let me say, the only time when the so-called, government project did not work was in 2002, right? But I've given you the...
During that's when Kenyatta was endorsed
by the former president, the late President Moi. But I've given you the background as to the reasons why Uhuru Kenyatta lost.
The Kibaki Tosha.
Kibaki Tosha. And remember, at that time, you're talking of an Uhuru who was green, unknown, also in terms of was inexperienced, but that notwithstanding, were it not for the Kibaki Tosha clarion call, let me tell you, Uhuru would have made it. You remember sometimes back, I think around 3 or 4 months ago, we sat here when there were indications that probably Musalia Mudavadi would be the guy. Right? And I want to tell you, had it been that it is Musalia who was endorsed by the president, things would have been different right now in terms of Musalia's candidature. It would not have been the person that, the Musalia that we know now. So never, like I've always said, in this part of the world, never underestimate the powers of a sitting president. And when you hear him telling you that, look, this thing is our marathon, it's not a sprint. Some of us who are
it's a heavy word, sugar-coated
in terms of following political events in 2007, we tell you, and I mean, we celebrated, and everyone else knew Raila Odinga was the president.
Until Tharakanithi happened.
Again, let me say, in this part of the world, never underestimate the powers of a sitting president, and I know no one understands that better than the deputy president.
So on 10th, all indicators are heading to Kasarani. 60,000 people are invited, and the president was in Nakuru last weekend. Perhaps we are not so sure whether he'll be invited or not, but perhaps let's just put it this way: if at all he'll be there, what do you see from 10th moving forward?
I think, Oloo, what will culminate on the 10th, it will not be a surprise to many of us.
Yeah.
Because...
but that will be an ODM affair.
It is not an ODM affair. It is not going to be an ODM. They have opened it up. Because they are saying even Jubilee will attend, and even UDA and others attend.
Because it's an open. We saw
Clarion called that Right Honorable Raila actually made it very clear that Kenyans
are invited.
Let us come. Let us talk. I want to hear from you. Before I make my personal declaration, I want to hear from you, Kenyans. And one thing that Raila is eyeing to see, Oloo, he wants to galvanize the minds of Kenyans and tell them, whatever I'm going to decide is from you, not from me. Are you getting the thing that Raila is actually fighting? I mean, he wants to tell Kenyans, I can only make a declaration that I want to contest for this political seat of the President of the Republic of Kenya.
But that is quite synonymous with politicians. And politicians say,
yes. So
I'm
that
going to
when
consult.
you will be crossing the country for votes, you'll be saying, you told me, you promised me. You see, he wants the Kenyan own the process, and that is actually the main call that is actually intending to do it at the meeting. But as whether the president will attend, whether the deep states are with them or not, that is not a big deal. Why? I'm telling you this, and I don't think it will not be very wise for the president to take sides as of now. We still have about 8 months down the line as the President of the Republic of Kenya, who allowed Kenyans to make their own informed decisions as to whom they will choose come 2022.
Okay.
So when you talk about government machinery, I think what the government is actually doing, just like Ruto, is being provided security wherever he is, whenever he is in rallies and all that.
He's still enjoying the constitutional mandate.
He's enjoying the government machinery.
Exactly.
So what Raila Odinga will be enjoying that day, he is enjoying the goodwill of the state, but not necessarily the machinery. What the machinery is doing, they are doing what they normally do every day: security, providing that the law and order is maintained.
Enjoying machinery, they say. I don't think. Would you say that? Because
I want my friend to remove.
Yes.
This issue of now that we are enjoying the government machinery or the state machinery, by say that Raila could be very sure of winning. How many elections have we done, Oloo? For the prior elections that we have witnessed in this country, and then those ones would have even be easily managed by the state. But much of it has been going against the direction of some of the people you are thinking they would have been able to support them. So in this case, if you are thinking and imagining that now that we have this state with us, 2022 will be a walk-off, you will be in for a huge surprise.
I really don't think it's quite open that the deep state, it's a making of the people that the deep state is at work. Who is the deep state? Somebody would ask who is the deep state. But ODM leader Raila Odinga has over and again said that he's inviting Kenyans of goodwill. We saw that one during Kalonzo Musyoka's declaration at Kasarani. He invited all party leaders. We had Gideon Moi was there. We had, all other party leaders were invited. But perhaps, are we likely to see the president attending this particular one? Because he would attend on his on his stand as a Jubilee Party leader. If at all he's invited. Do you think he can attend that? Or it would send a different signal?
I think, let me there is another clarification I want to make.
Briefly.
That these people have been alluding as to the deputy president. I'm not talking on behalf of the deputy, but there is something that I'm saying that people are normally talking, that he went against the president. There is nothing like deputy president having gone against His Excellency the president. What the president says is that he has actually won of an early election, campaign, which of course he said that please guys let us cool down because we have other commitments, we have other things that we must do for Kenyans that we pledge to them. And in this case, let us leave aside politics. But in this case, Oloo, if the deputy president was wrong to make an early campaign, then we would say that is why, even the reason why he's ahead of Right Honorable Raila as far as the rating is concerned as of now. So if he did the wrong thing, he would be behind. But now that it is, by all indication, it is widely seen that he is still ahead as far as the ratings are concerned. And if election would be held today, the deputy president will throw right down Raila, hands down. So in this case, he did the right thing.
We cannot authentically.
Of course, we cannot. These are just analysis.
Of course, but then
we stop to be analysis.
Elections just 8 months away. Elections 8 months away, and whichever way, even if it was working in favor of Raila Odinga, the honorable or deputy president, scientifically you'd easily see, how the wave is going, whether we are moving to the right direction as a country, who is going to be leading. It's quite common. We've been seeing this from 2002 to 2007, 2013, 2017. At some point, even Honorable Raila Odinga was leading.
You are right.
All right? Yeah, and then things changed. I mean, an election is in...
Was it because of the deep state?
Okay, I have no idea about that. I have no idea. But, Wakili, the president talked about speed. And when you were at Bomas, he said, sasa ndugu yangu William hapa, tulikuwa tunaenda huku mbio, akageuka, akaenda pande nyingine. Anaenda kuchukua baton. Again last week he talked about, the sprint and the marathon. The need for speed, we can what is the president's mind? Because this is the second time he's talking about the speed, slow down, this is how it's done. Does he know something that we, as on this side of the divide, we are not aware of?
I think first, and that's a point of correction to what Doc has just said. As to whether the deputy president has all along been propounding what the president's policies are, I think by virtue of the deputy president being openly and clearly anti-BBI, I think that was the first, that was a major point of departure in terms of policy. Because my reading of the president's mind, and especially from it's called what? The state of the nation, you realize that that is one thing that the president had fronted as, a core pillar in terms of his legacy. So as to ensure that he leaves the nation in a united fashion. And so that to the extent that the deputy president, went out and openly, and as it were, fronted himself as the guy around whom those who opposed the document would so easily gravitate, then I think that formed a major point of departure between these two gentlemen. So that, and that was my suggestion, that perhaps what the deputy president would have done was maybe, of course, inform the president of his reservation. And then probably also, of course, there was nothing wrong with documenting his reservations, particularly on the aspect of the judiciary, which I agreed with entirely. But then end it there. But then don't go out there and, be the one who is at the forefront in political rallies, which are attended by thousands of Kenyans, using your influence and, sending that message that this is a document that really has to collapse. Then that marked a major point of departure, because the president has a legacy that he wants to safeguard, and he has placed this as a core pillar. Because remember, the president is saying, in as much as Doc talks of, electrifying the country, doing what else, 2017 taught the president, and rightfully so, that if we are not united as a country, when we have chaos, when the country is burning, when you will not find it easy coming to the CBD in Nairobi, then all those things just become stories.
Doctor, you agree with that one?
You understand?
Yes or no, you agree with that?
So that now formed the basis of the president's, unity call, which somehow I see under the cloud of the Azimio.
All right.
So that I think that marked a major point of departure. If the deputy president was slow to that extent, and then had he just played smart, then I think there's a sense in which, even on the side of the president, whom we all have to appreciate, unlike the other three presidents that we've had, has got that human heart. I tend to think it would be very difficult. It would have been very difficult for the president. Of course, I don't know him personally, but from what I've read and what I've heard from those who are close to him, it would have been very difficult for the president to renege on the pledge that he made. Yangu kumi, yake kumi. Had the deputy president just gone slow.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think
in 1 minute, allow me to take a break. Allow me to take a break.
Yeah.
Allow me to take a break. And on that note, yangu kumi tano kumi. Okay, it's been spoken all over. Okay, let's take a break and we'll come back. We are still going to continue with that discussion. And the deputy president will be in Kisii tomorrow for 3 days. His second tour in a month. We are going to talk about that one. Somebody said that he's overworking himself.
He's overworking.
Okay.
Not working. He's
overworking. Okay. So let's take a break and we come back. We are going to talk about that one in a short while. We'll be right back. Welcome back. My director says that he wants to be my running mate. I'm not contesting for a political seat. I'm here. I'm here. I'm not running for a political seat. Yes, we'll be covering. All right. So thank you for staying with us. Let's continue with this one. As we come to a close, we are having a conversation here, and Wakili, Daktari, to come back to you now. The need for speed. As we come to a close. William, nilikupatia baton, ukapiga kona, ukaenda pande ile ingine, and now and that was again said last week in Nakuru. Are we supposed to slow down in politics? Is that what the president was trying to imply, or it was a statement but sugar-coated in a certain way that whoever wanted to understand understood it?
I think, Oloo, what I would wish never believe so much about what politicians are saying. They could be saying different things when they mean different things. Because when you look at it, Oloo, His Excellency, the President and the Deputy President, they have been very close friends for many years.
Yeah.
Even before the 2013. These are people who have worked together in Kanu. These are even when Moi declared Ruto, His Excellency, the President, as the man to go for the mantle of the land. I think Ruto was there. He was behind. If Ruto was behind even the election that was there after Moi declared His Excellency for the contest.
Yeah.
It was Ruto who went around the country campaigning for him. Leave alone 2013, before 2013. So in this case, when His Excellency the President talk about all those things, go slow, I gave you the pattern, you ran backside instead of running forward. I think these are very close friends who know what's there. And of course we can know that one. Now I was asking myself, sincerely, Oloo, the Mount Kenya politics seems to be favoring Ruto. The other day, you saw the Kirinyaga governor saying that I'm the only one who has now remained in the cold in Jubilee. I'm the only one. So I have decided to join UDA.
Yeah.
This is the backyard of His Excellency the President. And the President is telling Right Honorable Raila, go ahead, the pattern is on your side. Because even though he has not declared openly, his talks suggest that he supposed the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. Now in this case, and you wonder now, you fail to understand. The backyard is talking different and is talking different. I don't know whether there will come a time when his people will say, yes, we have agreed, we are in total agreement with you, we are going to support this man. And I don't know whether that one will ever happen. But as to the speed in which these people should engage themselves, I told you last week, Oloo, Right Honorable Raila Odinga is here to hit the ground, campaigning. He's here to start. Yes, he has warmed it up, but according to the promise that he has, is that after 10th, you will hit the ground. We are waiting to see how he will change the tax. Maybe he will engage the Abakia.
Okay.
And the deputy president, as it is now, I can tell you for sure that his campaign has gained the momentum. It has gained the momentum that he cannot retract back. He said, we are not the people to look backward. We are moving forward. And that is what he declared. So in this case, what I'm seeing, already is being rated the highest as far as the rating is concerned. That is ahead of Right Honorable Raila Odinga. But that, of course, I'm not currently saying that it is that, because that is just by the analysis. So what the Deputy President is trying to do is actually to sustain that move, because you can see he's hardly away from, I mean, a month before he goes to where he was the other day. Now he's going to Kisii for about 2 days. So in this case, he has to maintain those areas which were previously owned or under Right Honorable Raila Odinga.
Okay, well, let me come to Wakili. So on Saturday, on 10th, we are likely to see 60,000 Kasarani, full delegates, wananchi coming, just to, to get to understand what is happening on the ground and to hear what Raila has to say. But then now, what are we likely to see moving forward? Because the president in Nakuru last week said, wakati tafika kupiga siasa. The way he usually puts it, jiji sahi, tutarudi hapa. That was the state of the nation on Tuesday. On Wednesday, he was in Nakuru and he made that statement. So, is he now free? Is he free now? Are we likely to see kind of a formal approach, politics, slowly, until we head there, connecting with what's supposed to happen on 10th?
Victor, you realize that an announcement of, or rather declarations of presidential candidature and how you do it are normally very important events. I mean, some of these things normally have hallmarks.
Yes.
If you can recall, I think the ODM wave of 2007, it coalesced around that event at, was it Kasarani? Where the other candidates somehow, there was some election, some sort of an election, and then Raila was crowned, and then there was that momentum that came from there, and it went up to the election day, right? If you can recall, I think another fervent process was the Uhuruto team, 2013. You can recall the event in Nakuru. It was so much how it was choreographed. You recall is it the red, yellow helicopters and it was done in a way that was so euphoric, and from there then now things that they just take their own, they span in their own way. So I think there's a sense in which the initiation of that presidential the presidential bid is really important. So that is what I would expect to happen on 10th, when we all expect the former Prime Minister to formally declare his bid. Of course, after endorsement from the different and relevant quarters witnessed even by the international community. Of course, on my end, what I would say, and some of the recommendations that I would give are that I would expect a scenario where after the 10th, the former Prime Minister ought to have segments of his campaigns led by people who are relatively younger, stronger, but then who call the shots. More or less like what happened in 2002. To Mwai Kibaki, where the campaigns were essentially led by Raila Odinga. We had the Kalonzos and whatever doing the rounds. And I'm saying this bearing in mind the Deputy President's campaign. I don't expect the Deputy President to slow down up to election date, and of course you have to bear in mind
he can't afford to do that right now.
Yes, and there is also the question.
4 years in county, he can't afford to slow down at this particular point.
There's also the question of age. So that you see that same tempo also has to be sustained by the Prime Minister side, and I will not be expecting to see the former Prime Minister.
But when you talk of the tempo and the campaign, we are seeing more or less, their campaigns days trial and strategy. Raila was in Nyeri 1.5 weeks ago.
Yes.
The deputy president was in Nyeri again for 3 days.
Yes.
He's heading to Kisii tomorrow for 3 days.
Yes.
Twice. The second time in a month. Trying to outdo one another is that's the game.
Actually, it would seem the game plan there is if Raila is in Nyeri, the deputy president will have to, will be following in the next 2-3 days just to outdo something like that. So that, and that's why I'm saying that the Azimio la Umoja team will now have to come up with a formula through which they shall be having strong people. Those who persons who call the shots. Under the former NASA, we had the, Mudavadis, the Kalonzos, name them, who could go anywhere throughout the country without necessarily the former prime minister having to be there and still, call the shots. That is what I mean. So that the persons would then also be in a position to, as it were, do the bidding for the.
But at least we're not seeing that right now because the other 4 principals moved, and now Honorable Raila Odinga remained alone. So he's a one-man.
So something has to be cobbled up. Along those lines.
And perhaps that's why we are seeing Honorable Raila Odinga now trying to bring the governors together. Every region he goes to, he'll come, bring together the governors, perhaps to give him the support, because now the principle, the way you've said it, way back, we would see Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka in a different county or a different region, or Musalia Mudavadi a different region, and then now they would have one major rally for all of them. But then that has changed. Dr. As we come to a close, the issue of the state you're talking about, the state project, and now it's coming, and we're likely to see. Somebody said that Raila Odinga is a state project.
I don't think Raila can fit to be a state project. Raila is more than that. He's a national figure. So in this case, you can be a project if you are somebody who has started the campaign the other day. Raila is a national and most of an international, he's a statesman of his own. And he cannot really be coined up to fit the state project. He cannot be. So what he can be, if he can enjoy the state resources, it is to his advantage. I look at the state as an advantage and not the main thing. Are you getting what I'm saying?
Sure.
So that Raila will have his own, he's coming up during the time when he's elaborating that he would do better than the current state of affairs. And he was opposed to most of the things which were being done by, that has actually, he will be actually sailing on the failures of the current state. Are you saying? So as a strong competitor, he will always undo, or rather try to portray Ruto about the failures of the current government. So in this case, I think Raila will make use of the tent to talk to the nation. All of us will be watching, and even inclusive of other parties, the major parties, because it is going to be covered. And my friend here said it is national and maybe regional and international. I don't know what my friend means. Will it be an international day?
Okay. What do you mean? Regional,
maybe you can explain that one further. But what I can say, I think Right Honorable Raila Odinga will use the day to sell his idea to the nation, because all the eyes, because of the announcement, all the eyes now will be centered at the meeting. And whatever he's going to say, it will be captured by Kenyans. And maybe that is why His Excellency, the Deputy President, the President, has decided to go and sell also his philosophy on the other end of the world. That is Kisii.
Okay.
I don't know whether that...
And that brings me to the next question, Wakil, as we close. Is it a good idea? The strategists, the think tanks, and even the planners of these events, is it a good idea that if I go to region A, the following morning, my competitor also go there and do what I've done? Is it the right strategy to be done, actually?
I think for the deputy president, so far it has been working for him. You know, strategy is about what works for you. And it's true that so far he's gained serious ground. And everything has been working for him. You know, at times when you get, for example, defections by governors like the governor for Kirinyaga, and then Nyeri governor gives certain indications.
Yeah.
I mean, it gives you that confidence, if I was the deputy president, that I'm gaining serious traction in the ground and I may just be doing the right thing. And you see, you only change the strategy if it is not working.
Yeah.
So I want to believe the strategy is working for him. So far, so good. So that, of course, it's upon the other side now, Azimio la Umoja, to also come up with a strategy that would, as it were, neutralize what the deputy president has done so far.
All right. Okay. Gentlemen, I think that's the right point for us to finish this conversation. I wish you had more time, but anyway, we have to close it at that particular point. Just to recap, where our reporters still on the ground in Kabete, just to give us more details, where police officer by the name Benson went on a shooting spree, killing 7 people in Kabete after shooting his wife at J Heights flat that is near Kabete police station. That happened around Maya Bar in Kabete. He killed himself after the incident, and according to the incident and according to the information we have, is that he was driving in a Probox at around 1 a.m. What we understand is that he was armed with an AK-47 rifle. After shooting his wife, he went out and shot other people. Others who were injured are receiving treatment at various hospitals in the city. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. We've been joined by Wakili Ken Amondi and Dr. Rotich here in studio. You, as a viewer, can I just say thank you for staying with us. Tomorrow is another day. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.